All right, very good. So we're going to get started. So today we're going to go over our things we need to do to maintain the mount, and also a little bit on the S mount, which is the kind of a slight variation on the mount theme. So oftentimes when we get to mount, just getting to mount tends to be a little bit difficult. And what I mean by that is if I'm in a good side control here and I go to step into the mount, what I'll do is I'll step my legs over Chelsea's legs, and what you'll see will happen is Chelsea's going to end up catching my leg pretty quickly here. So I'm in my side control. For me personally, I prefer to kind of start to step over. Now, if you do this, what you'll see is a lot of people, when they first do this, is they'll go here and they'll start to step their leg over. Just cross your legs around my leg. Just cross your legs around my leg. Perfect. So, let go. So when I do this thing, so when I go from here and I go here and I go to step, I basically just give up my, thank you. I basically give up my leg as I'm stepping over her legs. I'm basically exposing my leg to her to get into side, or to get me into her half guard, and then I got to fight through the half guard to get back to mount. So we want to make this as easy as possible. So one of the most fundamental ways of getting to the mount is driving the knee across the abdomen. Once your knee comes all the way across the abdomen, I'm looking to get, once my knee touches the floor on the far side, I'm going to flare my foot out and almost like kick the mat. And this is this is really fundamental drill, very easy. But the idea is to get used to not exposing my leg to her legs as I'm attempting to get to the mount. It's going to be a lot harder for her to slow me down if she doesn't have something to grab onto as I'm driving across. So from this position, we'll do it from a couple. From this position here, I bring my knee across her abdomen. Even if she tries to catch my leg right here, there's not really anything I'm giving her. We're going to do this from a different position so you guys can see a little better. From here, once my knee hits the floor, I'm now going to pivot my foot and kick and then come down. Notice my arm is still underneath Chelsea's head here, so I want to make sure my base is out wide on this side, because she's going to want to roll to my left or her right in order to get me out. But if my weight is over on this side, if you guys remember we did this with the Ezekiel yesterday, it's harder for her to roll me with all my weight over here and my base over on this side with my hands nice and posted on the floor. So to get to the mount, and that'll be the first thing we do today, is we're going to go to get to the mount. We're going to do traditional, just driving that knee across the abdomen. Once that knee hits the floor, we're flaring the foot out to the opposite side. Got that? So let's do it from a different angle, just so you guys can see the kind of the working parts. Oh, one more time, thank you. No, you're right, you're good. Thank you. Could you move just a slightly? Yeah, perfect. So from here, I'm taking my knee, I'm driving it across her abdomen. Remember, don't expose your foot or your leg to her legs, to your partner's legs. If you do that, the chances of them catching us in half guard increase dramatically. So we don't want to give up our half guard position here. So we don't want to give up our dominant position being on top without being without being in any sort of guard. So from here, my knee comes across the abdomen. Once my knee hits the floor here, I then flare my foot out. So I flare my foot out, kick the floor, and bring my leg back. Once I get to this position, I can then remove my hand and get into my solid mounted position here. So it's just driving the knee across and getting to the mount. Give it a shot. So you okay? Mm-hmm. So we got to drop. Is that the bad one? So drive your knee straight through. So instead of, if you can, instead of coming and bringing it so it's sideways, so what's happening is you're actually turning your hip and it's making your foot flare. So so what I mean by turning your hip, so this is actually a good thing. So sit up there, face the camera. So what happened was, in that second one there, is when Chelsea was bringing her knee across, could you sit up and just face a little sideways, so you sit upright. So as she was driving her knee across, so just try to step your knee across. What was happening was her leg was turning out. Her leg was turning out here as she was driving across, so it allowed me to catch her leg. So what she wants to do, and this is, it's a little bit of an awkward movement. I know when I started doing this, I felt really strange because it just felt weird. But it's actually a good thing because it, like I said, it makes it hard for me to catch her lower leg here. So I'm going to grab your leg. So don't come so far. So keep square here. And what you're going to do is you're going to drive your knees straight through. So just drive it. Yes, right there. That's it. Now kick it through. That's perfect. Good. Can you do it on the other side?
Yeah, let's do it on the other side. I didn't realize that if you caught my leg, I was going to twerk my knee.
It didn't mess you up with it.
Okay.
You're okay? Much better. Good. Much better.
So I have a question though, and I feel like right here my focus will get caught. Is it? Oh, you just don't really have you don't have much give.
I don't have the leverage.
Yeah.
If your foot is on my thigh right here, it's really hard for me to catch it.
Okay.
I don't really have leverage isn't the right word. I don't have a good positioning to grab your foot right. If your foot is hanging out right here, I have to move myself or move you in order to get the foot down here in order. So yes and no. And obviously the faster you do this, the harder it's going to be for the person on bottom to catch your leg. So when we drive that knee across, we really try to be aware, really try to be cognizant of just driving that knee through and then flaring that foot out. And the point is like when you're doing this, you want to go quickly. You don't want to kind of take your time, drive your knee across. Okay, my knee just hit the floor. Now I'm going to flare my foot just as that fast. No, you want to go. You want to hit it quick. So the faster you can do this, the more comfortable you are with this motion, the faster you can go through it. The less exposed you are, the shorter amount of time your foot is exposed. So we want to, like, nothing is 100% in jiu-jitsu. I can say that 1,000 times and still keep saying it 1,000 more because it's everything, every position, every submission, everything has an answer. There's always a counter, always. It's just a matter of finding it. And so if you know there's a counter, if you know that you're going to be exposed, if you know there's a weakness in whatever you're doing, try to minimize that weakness, minimize their ability to counter, minimize their options when you're in that position. And that just takes practice, just takes time. Does that answer your question? Does that make sense? Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so next thing we're going to do, so that's our first drill. We go back and forth, side to side. You can do that for 2 or 3 minutes and just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And when you do this, really practice, really try to concentrate on staying low and keeping a good balance. And so once you get comfortable with that motion, try to have the person on bottom. So say you drill that for 3 minutes or 2 minutes, whatever. Then you can drill it again for another 2 or 3 minutes, same thing, except this time the person on bottom tries to give you a little bit of resistance, whether that be try to catch your leg, they're trying to escape while you're doing it. Remember, anytime you want to drill something, it is best to drill the motion first before you start adding the person on bottom or the person that you're doing it to giving you resistance. The reason being is that once you've done it once or twice, the person on bottom knows 100% what you're going to do. And so once they start giving you resistance, they can start escaping before you're even doing the motion itself, which is not even close to what actually happens in live training. Unless the person you're training with is really, really good and has trained with you so much they know your game back as well as you do. And once you start initiating something, they already know what you're going to do and they're working on an escape. Not tremendously realistic at all. So whenever you drill something, you want to try to drill the motion with minimal resistance, little to none. And then once you start getting more comfortable with something, then you can start adding resistance. But I've known guys that trained for a very long time that were very, very technical, very good. And when they drilled, they didn't drill with any resistance at all. It was just going through the motions again and again and again and again. Yes, it can be mind-numbing, but the point is you want to get so good at something that you don't have to think about it anymore. The technique is there and the motion is there. So our next thing we're gonna go for here is we're gonna set up our S-mount, and I'm gonna show you the setup in a couple of different positions. Now, the way I set up my S-mount is a little bit different from the way that other people do it. The reason is that I throughout my jiu-jitsu career have had flexibility issues. I'm starting to work on that. I've been starting to work on that this last year, and it definitely has improved. But my range of motion is not the normal, or not necessarily normal, but I don't have as good a range of motion as a lot of people do. So I've modified getting to the S-mount so that it works for me. If this works for you, great. If you have a different way of getting to S-mount and it works for you, awesome. Stick with it. This is just what works well for me. So, from my mounted position here. So what I want to do when I do this is I want to look, so when I get into the S-mount here, I'm going to end up here like this. I'm going to end up in this position here. But how I get here is a little bit different than the way a lot of people do this. What I've seen people do in the past is they're able to drive their knee underneath their partner's leg and then open up their leg to go. So basically what I see is people do this where they're able to drive their knee underneath and then they like flip their leg around and yank the head up here and get into the S-mount from here. When I was taught the S-mount, we started off flat. I've heard people say going from the toes is the way to do the S-mount. Personally, I prefer my leg flat. I'm not super mobile in this position, but I feel a lot more comfortable. You okay? Mm-hmm. I feel a lot more comfortable, and it doesn't hurt my toes. Strangely enough, the traditional S-mount hurts my toes quite a bit. I'm sure I could work on that. I don't honestly use the S-mount very often, so it's not something that I tend to work on a lot. However, hey, guess what? We got lots of time, so I may get good at the S-mount. Who knows? So, moving forward here. So, when I slide up, ideally I want to be underneath this elbow. Now, I'm going to be picking this elbow, so that means when I slide my leg up, I need to make sure that when I slide my leg up, I don't want to step over her elbow here. Meaning, I don't want to come over my partner's. Keep your elbows in. So I don't want to come over the elbow here and then try to pick this up. The reason being is because I give her kind of an out. If she's able to get out from underneath me and start scooting down, this elbow is actually going to give her a clear line of escape. Versus if I'm underneath it, now all of a sudden she has to clear her shoulder and it's going to be harder for her to scoot down. So what I'm getting at is when we slide up, try to stay underneath this elbow with this leg. This is the side that I pick. So I'm going to take my free hand here. I'm going to take my right hand. I'm going to find the elbow. And now I'm going to slide my left leg underneath my partner's arm here. And notice, this is where I want her elbow up. From here, lifting this elbow, I'm going to bring my leg all the way around and come underneath her head. So I bring my leg all the way around and come to this position right here. Now, not leg underneath your head, excuse me, heel even with her ear. Now, from this position here, if I were to sit all my weight on Chelsea's chest, it'd be really uncomfortable for her, but we're not going to do that. I'm just going to hook her arm right here. I hook her arm, one, and I'm grabbing a hold of my shoulder here. I'm now going to cup her legs as I spin off. So I post on the floor, I spin here, and now I cup her legs. This is to prevent her from doing the running man escape. From right here, her wrist is in the crook of my elbow, which is going to make my finish a lot easier. Pinching my legs together, I lean back, I'm driving my hips forward, and I get my tap. So we'll do that one more time. So, S-mount armbar. From the mounted position, I'm going to slide my knee up. Remember, it does not... If I'm going to attack this arm, I need to make sure that I'm underneath this elbow when I slide up. If I don't, if I'm not underneath her elbow here, I'm not going to be able to go for my armbar. So this is paramount importance, so make sure that I slide underneath her tricep here. So from right here, finding the elbow, sliding up, I'm going to open up my leg and sit nice and tight here. From right here, I hook her arm. I'm looking to catch her wrist in the crook of my elbow. I lean my body towards her. I lean my upper body towards her legs here. I then swing my leg over her head as I look for my dismount. I want to find this outside knee. Make sure she can't roll away here. Now I'm going to lean back, hips towards the ceiling, pinching my legs together, and I get my tap. So going from mount to S-mount to the armbar. So you're gonna come back down. So this arm's gonna pick my elbow as you slide up.
Oh, at the same time. Okay.
Yep.
And then I just
Turn that foot all the way over. You're gonna bring the heel all the way down. You're gonna shift your body so that the majority of your weight is gonna be on your heel here, and you're gonna be facing the corner. You're facing that corner. You have to face that corner, your chest.
I hook this while I'm doing that, right?
No. Face your body that way first. So get into the S position first.
Okay.
So lay low. There you go. Chest down low. There you go. Good. Now you're gonna hook my arm. So my wrist in the crook of your elbow. There you go. Lean your body. Swing your leg. Sit. Turn your leg over. Good. Facing that way, you're too much body weight that way. You should be on your heel here.
Oh, so I'm leaning back this.
You're sitting up. Wait, come back.
What's the purpose of leaning this way and then leaning up right?
Let me do it. Let me show you. So what's happening is Chelsea's sitting really high and she's leaning really far this way, which is making her body weight. Her sitting up really high is keeping her center of gravity high. So if I rocked in either direction, she's going to fall in that direction. So we want to stay low and we want to turn all the way towards the mirror or turn all the way towards the corner. So from here, this leg, notice I stay low, I slide up, and now when I turn this leg over, I'm turning my upper body towards the corner of the room. So I here. Notice I'm staying down low. I lean this way, and I'm sitting on my heel on the back side of the
Your glutes are actually on your heel.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're leaning too far to the right. So you have to adjust this so that your body is on top of it. So like when I do this, I have to sit a little bit more on my heels because you're so much smaller than I am. It's hard for me to sit upright on you.
Okay.
But the point, like when you do this, turn this way, chest down low, right there. This is where you should end up. You can actually slide your knee up a little higher on this side. Yep, right there. That's much better. That's much better, S-mount. Hip, hook my wrist. Good. We'll try it again.
Yeah, one more time if you don't mind. So is this better right here?
Yes. Stay low. Stay low. Yeah, stay low. There you go. Good. So one last thing on that. Don't hook and slide. Just hook around my wrist. You're hooking and sliding.
Oh. Like when don't
So
hook
look,
down here and then slide my wrist?
Right.
Okay.
Because what happens if I bring my elbow down as you're
Okay.
sliding up,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
But if you hook around my wrist and already start extending, then I can't. It's harder for me to get
Okay.
away. So you want to hook straight away.
That makes sense.
All right. Very good. So we talked about getting to the mounted position today and maintaining it, and then we went for our first attack on the S-mount and armbar or the armbar from the S-mounted position. So this is a really, once again, one of those fundamental movements, very basic jiu-jitsu. If you guys have any questions about this or would like to see another video, please make sure to comment. Feel free to send us any messages on any of our social media platforms, which are?
We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Heart and Soul BJJ. Please like and subscribe to this video and comment in the comment section what worked for you, what didn't, and if you guys have any variations, we would love to hear them. We have Discord chat that is available. We would love to have you as part of our community. We know that everybody's stuck inside right now. It's really hard to train with your jiu-jitsu family, so we'd love for you to be part of our jiu-jitsu family. The link for that is in the description. And we are here Mondays through Thursdays at 5 p.m. for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Fridays at 2 p.m. And I teach a yoga class Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at noon, all of that specific daylight time.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Oos.